Hello, you wonderful people. And it's 2025, and I like to be realistic about my future and everybody's future. So I think about a lot of things. And many, many years ago, I read this book called The Average is Over. And the funny part about that book is that it talked about living in times when we have AI able to replace human labor, and what does that mean? And this got me thinking in terms of how do you prepare for the future? And even though this future, I believe, is way farther away, there's still lessons that we could learn from it. And Primogen on his channel has talked about this divide that is happening that I'm calling the Great Divide. And it is where you who are just starting out in the world with ChatGPT, all this AI that allows you to build things without actually knowing what you're doing. If you know basic coding, you could get far really, really easily. And what's awesome, this lowers the barrier to entry and allows almost anybody jump into learning to code and being able to become more productive. But what does that mean? As you could see, the AI goodness is what that we all now are able to have access to. So we're able to build things much faster. And if you see on the right here where you have senior developers really, really far ahead, those are the folks that know how things work under the hood, and they're able to work on complex problems and issues. And this is where the great divide is happening. And this is something that I myself am worried about, because what can I do to continue to make sure that I stay relevant in this world of where we're heading? And this is not happening yet, but it is starting to show the fact that this might be the trend, because I've been coding for past 5 years. I switched careers late in my 30s. I'm now in my 40s. And what I've noticed is by using AI tools, I'm able to be way more productive. And all I really have to worry about is being able to review the code and make sure that it works. But again, this comes to building front-facing applications, building the UI, very, very easy with V0 to scaffold the front end using services like a headless CMS, combine some together, and you could really build things for folks to use. Even though I'm able to build so many different cool products, what I'm starting to realize is that because of the things that these AI tools are helping me to do, I feel like I am starting to miss out of really understanding how things work under the hood. And so the great divide, if I were to describe it, is the difference between the things that you're able to accomplish with AI versus do you actually know how some of these things work under the hood, and that base knowledge that is required to make those things work? For instance, would you be able to do those things without the AI? And what I'm realizing now is that I need to focus on making sure that I'm leveling up my skill way farther than what the expectation used to be. Back in the day, as a junior developer, knowing just React and front end, you were actually able to get a job. I don't think it is the case anymore, because with some of the AI tools, that level to entry now is much higher. Because why rely on a junior developer who could just build a simple React application if someone could easily just ask AI to do it? With V0, you could easily scaffold the front end and then connecting to a headless CMS, or using tools like Bolt or Cursor that helps you to stitch those things together effortlessly. You're able to do it. Yes, you still need to know how to code, because you need to check the progress at the end of the day, but that's not something that now is a novel knowledge. And so thinking into where we're going into the future, I'm realizing is that there is no more mediocre developer. And the goal that we have to strive for is to become the best developers that we can, and really continue to dive into the deep end, trying to learn more complex topics that can help us to continue to focus on solving those higher level difficulties. And some people will argue that at some point, all of that is going to be automated. And even though I think it's far from in the future, I still can't tell for sure. And I think the idea of us working with AI tools to help us be more productive is going to be around for a long time. But maybe 100 years from now, we're going to get to a point where machines could do everything. So, what I heard Primogen say on his channel, the time you should be worried is when OpenAI fires all their employees because they achieved AGI and they no longer need anybody to work on the systems because the systems could work on themselves. Now, I have no idea where the truth is, but I read this book and the book is by Tyler Cohen. It's called The Average is Over. Now, this doesn't paint the most optimistic picture, but there are some lessons to take. And I highly recommend that you read this book because it's just an interesting read, but I'll give you the quick TLDR. The big takeaway in Average is Over is that there is no longer going to be this mediocre job opportunity, or at least this average opportunity. Because of the technology and the way things are happening, we're going to be left with hyper competitive world. Because with tools of AI, some of the simple things or things that a mediocre developer or a junior developer could have done could easily be done with AI. And that could apply to other jobs as well. When it comes to what's going to be valuable, and this is from the book's perspective, but for us as developers is highly skilled workers. But in the book, good land, natural resources, unique ideas, and highly skilled workers. And what does that mean is what's not going to be as valued is generic, unskilled work or something that could easily be done with AI. And that's just unfortunate truth. And again, this is in the book. Are we there yet? I don't know, but this is the things I'm thinking about to try to kind of help myself to understand what do I have to do. And so the idea in the book is that at some point, there is not going to be that middle class. There's going to be higher skilled workers, or it's going to be unskilled or lower labor or people that just can't find jobs because a lot of jobs have been automated. And I was only laughing in my head is because it only makes me think of that movie Elysium. If you haven't seen it, unbelievable movie with Matt Damon where you have all the normal people living on Earth that's trash. They can't really do anything. And then you have the super elites living in space. Anyway, I don't know why I'm thinking about it. But the point that I'm trying to make is that because of AI, the entry point to get into certain industries is just a little bit higher, because if you could do the simpler tasks with AI and save money as a company, why wouldn't you do it? And I'm not saying this is where we are, but this is what I'm thinking about. And so for me, how do I hedge myself against that is to try to figure out, number one, thinking about tasks that AI cannot replicate easily. Also think of AI, how I could use it to automate my life, to make myself automate the boring stuff, and then only focus on the higher impact value, and then also leveling up my skill in a way where I'm able to stay relevant as long as I can. And one thing that people say, and this is again from the book, which assumes the worst, is, AIs working with humans are going to get far. But this is the interesting thing that was in the book. And someone who read it, they kind of made this point is when machines start replacing humans, it's humans teach the machines. So early on, we train the models. We need the models heavily rely on the humans to teach them to get better. I think that's kind of where we started. And then as humans fill in the gaps, machine improve, but they still need humans to help them do the things that they still can't do yet. And then the third level is machines handle most tasks. Human mostly supervise the machines and understand how machines work. And then finally, machines take over and do everything. And I think that's when that happens, that's a whole different problem of, am I going to have a job tomorrow versus like, what the hell is happening to the world? And again, this is from this book. I'm not saying this is what's happening. I'm just kind of sharing with you the thoughts that I have weirdly about the job and whatever. And then humans with the machines, why it's not a long-term fix, where the idea is we can stay relevant by teaming up with machines, like in chess, where humans and computers used to play against other computers to win. Now it's getting to a point where a human and a computer will still get beaten just by a computer. And you could read more about it in the book. And so talking about what can you do to get ahead where things might lead to the world of inequality, which I don't think is going to happen. I'm very optimistic and very positive. But I think for you to stay out, not only do you have to work on developing your skill, but you also have to always advocate for yourself and market yourself. So for me, what I've been thinking, how could I continue to advance my skills to continue to be relative and bring value as a developer? I'm not saying that anyone should stop. No, you should. To be honest, for me, if you were thinking if you should learn to code, you, yes, of course, should learn to code, because the more technically literate you are, the more advantage you will have over somebody who's not. But with that being said, here's the little plan that I made for myself of trying to focus not just on programming and building small things, but try to think about how to make a difference at scale and thinking about, deployment, security, and all this other stuff. And this is a plan that I talked in the previous video. I'll tag it here, some here, but just think outside the box. Do you have a plan of how you're going to continue to up level your skills to make sure that you're continuing to grow and feel like you could be relevant in the world of AI? And I just wanted to make this video not to scare anybody, but to basically tell about the reality that kind of always been, except that there were examples where someone who just learned the basics of React was able to get a job. We're getting to a point where the barrier to entry is set higher and higher. Some people are going to say, oh my goodness, this is terrible. What am I going to do with myself? And some people are going to take a look at it and say, of course, it's going to be higher. You're working on solving very difficult problems. You're working on big systems. And so the idea is, wherever you are, you might think of like, this sucks. Or you might think, oh my goodness, if I really study, if I level up my skills, if I become more knowledgeable, I'm going to be able to participate in this industry. And for me, like, I always feel the imposter syndrome, and I never feel like I know what I'm doing. And so I constantly, because of this fear, like, I don't know what I'm doing, I am constantly trying to study every day and do study every day to continue to evolve myself to be able to add more value. And one of the things that I started to focus on is, outside of just programming and building applications, I'm trying to figure out and focus on more higher in-demand skills, where it's not just build an application, but how do you handle deployment? What does it mean to scaling? What does it mean security? And this is not where I am yet, but these are the skills that I'm looking to get. So I started to study Python so I could focus more on building applications with use of AI and implementing AI, just so I could bring better value to the apps that I already built. I also started focusing on AWS and deployment, because I think as a software engineer, as part of you having that higher level and the ability is making sure that you're building apps that you can scale through different options that you have with all the different cloud services. And with that comes this idea of privacy and security. And so I think as a developer, if you continue to study how to program, how to build applications, but on top of that, you start focusing on how to deploy those applications and how to utilize all the artificial intelligence services that they have and how to scale them using cloud solutions, I think you're always going to grow. And this idea where I used to kind of always think like, you don't need data structures, you don't need algorithms, you don't need math. And yes, it is true, but we're getting to a point where I'm starting to be like, yes, I could build simple apps, or I could build apps for businesses. I could build a lot of cool apps, but we're getting to a point where just building the app is becoming not enough. And sometimes there's going to be these higher level backend challenges that you might encounter, where you would need to know and understand which data structure is the best. Why is performance suffering? Are you doing things in the most efficient way possible? And this sounds like, wow, there's like a lot to learn and so much to do, because I think there is. And so if you're wanting to be a developer, it is still a good time to enter, and there's still a lot of jobs, even with not talking about the stuff that I even haven't learned yet, there's plenty of opportunities for me. A lot of times when people thinks about getting started in the industry, they always think of FANG companies or big companies, but there's a lot of small marketing agencies that still do websites. There's small businesses that do technical and development stuff that a lot of folks just don't consider because they're smaller companies. But a job is a job, and you could still break into the industry. But what I'm saying is that as the industry evolves and as these AI tools continue to grow, the average is over. Like, we really need to really strive to be the best that we can. And I think from just living your life perspective, I think you should always strive to be the best that you can be in any endeavor that you take. For instance, when I used to do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, I wanted to be the best Brazilian Jiu Jitsu practitioner. Now that I work in development, I want to be the best developer that I can. But with this being said, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, Paul just scared the crap out of us not wanting to do any development in the first place. Screw being software engineer. Like, everybody now has to have masters and college degrees. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. And if you want to be competitive in the market where the world is heading, you need to put in your time and you need to genuinely continue to improve yourself daily and never feel like you ended up at a place where you feel comfortable. Comfort shouldn't exist in your vocabulary because comfort means that you're not learning anymore. And the way I think about anything that I do in life is that it's like you're on an escalator walking backwards. So the escalator is moving down and you try to walk up. If you just walk up the bare minimum, you're just going to stay in the same spot because the escalator is moving down. So you have to put in a little bit more effort to get ahead. And some people will say it's unfair. And who knows, maybe in the future, it's going to be like Elysium. All the elites are going to have everything and we all going to be peons. But until then, I feel and I agree with Primogen where he says, don't give up your hope of trying to become a software engineer. Just understand that the great divide is there and you need to close the gap between a junior engineer where all of that stuff could be done with AI to mid-level senior engineer. And you have to strive to develop those skills and that understanding. And so for me, that's what I want to do. Some of the things that I'm considering is continuing to do what I'm doing, but also dive deeper into AI and working with AI models, doing basic RAGs, take a look at how fine tuning works to better understand that side of things. The second thing, I want to get better at DevOps in terms of deploying the applications that I build and starting to understand this concept of security and scaling applications. And I know that's a lot. I'm not saying that I'm going to learn it all in one day. It's just how I'm thinking to bring more value. And then the third thing, as much as it pains me, and some people might be like, what are you doing, Paul? I do want to get better at math just because I want to be able to have a better understanding when I'm working with AI or when I'm trying to solve something a little bit more complex with some of the more complex algorithms. I do want to make sure that I'm improving my math skills to be able to have a better understanding of what I'm doing. And you don't have to agree in this video. I just wanted to make it because this is what I genuinely feel inside. And should you not learn to code? I still think you should. I think it's just the question of being where people thought it's easy money. Like, I never thought developing or switching to software engineer was easy money because my first job, I made $13.75 an hour as a developer, which was insane. I did it because I loved it. And I also feel like if you're going to do something that is going to give you that six-figure income is, you know, you need to really strive to be the best that you can. Because, like, if everybody average was able to do the least amount of work and make six-figure income, that's insane. So with that being said, the last thing I'm going to finish up with and say, this is still all like happening in a sense that nothing is set in stone and everything I just said might not happen, or maybe, you know, some people think it's like, oh, AGI is going to happen or already happened. I don't think that's the case. And I think we shouldn't overhype ourselves or scare ourselves. But I think the one point is when you live your life as a human being, should you strive for mediocrity? Like, should you strive to do the bare minimum to get ahead? Like, I don't think I could be proud with myself to not think that I did my best. And so I think for me, what I want to strive for is to focus on becoming the best that I can in the field that I am. And I know that I'm privileged to be where I am at. I am always counting my blessings. And I know that if I do get fired or if I lose my job, I'm still going to do the things that I enjoy, which is programming, building cool things. And at the same time, if AI takes over the world and there's nothing left for anybody, there's nothing we'll be able to do, then it's Elysium, Terminator 2 scenario. John Connor, Sarah Connor, I hope she comes out and helps and saves the world. But I think the takeaway here is that a lot of times when people wanted to get into coding, I'm not saying you, but the general kind of consensus was like, it's the easiest way to make, 100 grand. All I have to do is take like one little React course or one, you know, with this course or that course, and all of a sudden I'm going to make six figure. It was never the case for me. I've never started making six-figure income. It literally took me 5 years to get to a point where I was even close. And it was always difficult. And so if your thought was for living your life where you do the least amount of work and do the easiest path possible, then it's not programming, it's not any job. You're never gonna do the things that you want, is because you don't have the right attitude. And if that's offensive, this is what I hold myself to. It's, you need to take pride in the work that you do. And wherever it is, you need to do it for the best of your abilities. I've done many different professions. I was a stonemason where I built stone walls and stone patios. When I had that job, my goal was to become the best that I can. And I focused every day on things that I could do to improve by 1%. When I left being a contractor and working construction, I started teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because, I got my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I really love teaching. And when I was in that space, when I had my own business, I always strive to being the best that I can be. Like, how do I market my services? How do I become better at Jiu-Jitsu? How do I train? And then when I switched my job into development, that's what I thought about. How can I be the best? And I'm not saying, am I better than you? I might not, I don't think I am. I think that I'm not as good as I can be. But what I'm saying is, don't hold yourself to somebody who's above you, but be like, how could I make little changes in my life that lead me in that direction so I could catch up to those folks like above me and strive to get to their skill level. You should, like, when I see people that are better than I am, I'm like aspired to be just like them. I want to figure out what did they do to get there. So for me, I told you what I'm doing. I'm even thinking of getting a math tutor. Is that a little extreme? It might be, because I'm crazy. But the point is that I'm saying, regardless if you're self-taught, you go to college, or you do a combination of all those things, there is no easy path. And if you watch this video because you wanted to get into coding because the draw of easy money was the thing, it never has been that way, and it probably never will. And with these AI tools and all these things that are happening, I feel like people will be able to get more done with smaller teams. And if you could show value where you're able to get more done because you understand how to work with these AI tools, and also be able to solve more complex problems, you're always going to bring value. Outside of that, completely off devoted from the getting a job, if you're technically literate and you're a programmer, you have a secret that most folks don't, who are not in this tech field or striving to be in it. And so you could become self-employed, and you could figure out how to help other small businesses from what you learn in your tech industry and working with AI, how to automate their businesses, use AI to help them to save time. So I think, like, in this world where things feel so unpredictable, you still, being tech literate, could figure out a path for yourself. But you could always become a plumber. I did construction. It was a really good field, and you could make money that way. You could always become a jiu-jitsu instructor. You could always, there are many opportunities for jobs where they're probably not going to get automated by AI for a long time, And I'm not saying for you to do that. I'm just saying is that no matter what you choose, there's always going to be a difficulty. So if you decide not to go into programming and to do something else, it's still not going to be easy, right? And so you basically have to decide to do the things that you love. But the thing that I keep saying to myself, the average is over. Being mediocre is not good enough. It's not going to get you anywhere. And I'm not saying that's what people are striving for, but I know for me, like I see that I need to always strive to get better, and just being in the same spot is just not going to work. And is it good? Is it bad? I think it's exciting because it constantly makes you and encourages you to grow. And I hope you enjoyed this rant. If not, dislike this video. If you have your own spicy takes and opinions, let me know in the comments. I know I just blabbed on for like must have been forever, an hour, but I just wanted to share my real thoughts as a human being thinking about the things that I'm doing. Am I going to change? No, I'm going to continue to learn to code. I'm going to continue to try to get better. I'm going to keep talking on YouTube about the things that I'm doing. And let me know your thoughts. Maybe I'm just having a freak out moment today because I just heard so many different people say so many different things. But as always, thank you so much for your support. And I hope that you continue to experience only the best things in your life. And I will see you in the next video.